So we're working on the car project, and I've set up on the desktop in Car After Effects a folder structure, and inside the pics folder I've got a car setup picture that I had put together in Photoshop. And if we look and see how this picture is set up, you open my layers window. I've got several different layers set up. I've got a city layer in a background. I've got a tree layer in front of that, a street layer in front of that, a wheel of a car, another wheel, the body of a car, and then I created this other layer it's just called layer 1 right now, but it's just a little window that happens to be 1/3 the size of this movie. So this is 1/3, this is 1/3, this is 1/3. And this window I created to show you that I've set up the file with the same image repeated at the beginning and at the end. Yeah?
When you get the whole thing in After Effects, do you import it or do you just open it?
You import it. I'm recording this one now, so let me go through it. I don't want to jump around. I want to kind of go straight through. I'm going to get to it in just a second. So I've got these. The beginning, the middle, and the end are the same. Or the beginning and the end, tall building, little taller building, and the same exact image on this side, tall, smaller, like that. And it's the same with the trees layer that I set up. And I did that because I want this to repeat. So I'll show you what that means when we get to After Effects. So for now, I'm just going to close this. I'm going to go into After Effects. And then I'm going to import this artwork into After Effects and animate it so it looks like the car is sitting in the middle of the screen and the world is moving behind it. So the first thing I want to do is get this set up for let's see, I'll go to standard. So this is the standard After Effects interface, and I'm going to come over here to the project window, and this is the little box where I'm going to store all of my projects. So I'm going to go File, Import, File, and I want to choose my car setup, and I want to import as a composition, but I want to retain the layer sizes in After Effects when I import this. I don't want to bring just footage in. That's only one layer. And if I bring in a regular composition, then I don't have the bounding box just around the artwork. I'll show you in a second. So I'm saying composition, retain layer sizes, and click OK. And I just want to make sure this stays at composition, retain layer sizes, and click OK. So what this does is bring in the composition and a folder that has all the artwork in it. This has all the layers of my project. And if I double click on the composition, it's effectively showing me my Photoshop file, my city in the background and each of these different layers. It's not necessary for me to have this actual composition. I really just wanted to import all of my layers at once because I don't want my final movie to be a long, skinny movie. I need to create a custom composition that is the right size for my final movie. So this is an arrangement of all of these layers that was set up in Photoshop, but I want to set up a different arrangement of layers. So I'm going to go to Composition, New Composition, and I'm going to make a car driving comp. And I want to make this comp, I happen to know that for this project I did it small. It's 320 by 240 pixels. Other projects that you do, we can do the standard size that we've been working on in here, 848 by 480. But for this one, it's a small one, 320 by 240. And I also happen to know that I want this to be 6 seconds long, just because I've done it a bunch of times before, and I know that 6 seconds works really well. Click OK. And this is going to be my final image size at 100%. That's what it looks like. Now I could start dragging all these different pieces of the car into here, but the reason that we do this project and assignment the way that we do it is because you need to learn how to assemble the file in After Effects in a way that's going to be efficient. Because if I want to animate this car, then I'd have to animate the wheels going along with it. And I can link these wheels to the car. If I right-click on here, I could open my parent column. And I could say I want to connect the wheels to the car by doing this. Connecting using this little pick whip tool and dragging to the car. And that would enable the car and the wheels to stay together. Yeah, you want them to roll. And so so this is one way of linking, but it's more important for me right now. Parenting is a nice thing. It was added later in the program, many versions ago, and it's a useful thing to know. But I want you to know, more importantly, I want you to know about how to create nesting compositions. So I first want to make just a composition of the wheel rotating. So I'm going to see that my wheel here is 34 pixels by 34 pixels. See how, if I click it here, it shows me that that's how big it is. So I want a composition that's only my wheel rotating. So I'm going to create a new composition, and I'm going to call it wheel comp. And I'm going to make it about 40 by 40. Because if it was 34 by 34, it might kind of go beyond the edge. So I'm giving it a little bit more space. So now I have this little tiny composition. This is actually 100%. This is the size of the whole movie that I'm making. And I'm going to drag that wheel into that space. I could actually make it bigger. Sarah, did you create?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to rotate this wheel. And I know I want to rotate it counterclockwise because that's the direction the car is going. The car is going this way from right to left. So I want to rotate it counterclockwise, and I figure out how fast I want to do it just by kind of estimating. So if I go like this, well, maybe I want it to go around 4 or 5 times per second, just kind of guessing. So if I have 6 seconds in my movie, then I want it to go around 6 times 4 or 6 times 5. So
how do you change either frames? How do you change it?
I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to open this. I'm going to open this again to rotation. I could also just click R, the letter R for rotation. And I'm going to set a keyframe by clicking on this little stopwatch. And that tells me that at this point in time, at 0 hours, 0 minutes, 0 seconds, 0 frames, I want my wheel to be at this location, at 0 rotation, 0 degrees. And then I'm going to go all the way to the end to in this case it says 529, and I'm going to click on this 0x right here, and I'm going to type negative, see, 6 times 5 is 30, negative 30, and hit return. So what this is going to do is interpolate, calculate the in-between values of, to make it so it's rotating at 30 times over those 6 seconds. There's actually, since the artwork at this point is exactly the same as it is at this point, it stays in the same position. So really, I'm going to zoom in on here to the last. Oops, I'm going to zoom in on here to the last frame and show you that the interface is set up that I can't go past this, but I can drag this one over. Don't worry if you don't understand this part. You can look at it again in the video and try to understand. What this is saying right here is that this is negative 30 rotations exactly, but if I move it over 1, this is negative 30, so this becomes 1 step before negative 30, which makes it negative 29 degrees, or negative 29 rotations, 300 degrees. So when it gets to the next frame, which it'll never get to here, because this is the last frame, and it's just the interface gives you one more for doing this. It gets to here, and then it goes all the way back to square one, so it gives you a perfect loop. I could help you understand that better afterward if you need to understand it. It's kind of a more involved and advanced thing. It's a detail that isn't so necessary for everybody, but it helps you understand a little bit of the interface if you understand that's what's going on. So now I have this wheel rotating. The next thing I want to do is make a rotation, or make a composition for just the car with its wheels. So I click on the car body up here, and I look to see that my car body is at 229 by 76. So I want to make it around that size. So I'm going to say composition, new composition, and I'll call this car comp, or car with wheels maybe. And I'll make this one maybe 240. And I got to make it higher because I need to have room for the wheels and for the car to move around a little bit. You don't have to do it. You could follow the video later because I'm making a video for it. So if you need to review any part of it later, you can. 229 by 76. So I'm going to make this maybe 120 pixels tall. Also 6 frames per second. And then in this car with wheels comp, I'm going to bring in the body of the car. Maybe I want to make this a little bit wider in case the car rotates out of the screen. So I'm going to go to composition, composition settings, and make the width instead of 230 about 250. Gives me a little bit of breathing room. And then I'm going to bring, I don't want to bring just my wheel in, but I want to bring in my wheel composition, my wheel comp. So now if I play this, I have a car with wheels that are moving. And I want that car to be a little bit more interesting, so I'll put it on the top layer here, and I'll click P for position, and I'll click on P, and then I'll make the car move a little bit each time. And then I can select these, copy, and paste. So now it looks like the car's driving a little bit. I could put a little rotation if I wanted to look like kind of a junker car. I could click on rotation and move to a later frame and rotate it a little bit. And then go back, rotate a little bit further back. And then maybe copy these. Can't see too much of that rotation, but it's happening a little bit. I'm going to actually delete this and copy this keyframe and paste it at the end so it goes back exactly to the same place. So you have a question about that? Okay, so now I have a car with wheels. Now I need to go back into my main car composition, my car driving comp. So this is my final size of my movie. This one I set up at 320 by 240 already. And here's where I'm going to make the background move in such a way that it looks like the car is driving. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring in my city layer, and I'm going to place it in here so I can see my big building and the smaller building and this building here. I'm going to click P to open position. You can also just open all the transformation controls if you want. I could click P for position. And then I'm going to go all the way to the end. And I'm going to drag this artwork all the way down to here. You see it's the same arrangement of buildings because that's how I created my artwork, the same buildings. And I could use these little buttons here to try to get it set up exactly right. So I'm going to go here. So I need to nudge this a little bit to the left. Now I'm clicking and I don't see any movement whatsoever. So I know that I'm going to zoom out. I know that my artwork, see what's happening here with this bounding box? The bounding box is showing the outline of my artwork. So this is showing that this is this part of my artwork, and then I have artwork here that you don't see. And when I go to the other side, this is the end of the artwork, and this is the artwork that you can't see. But when I go back and forth between those, it's exactly the same. And I could also do the same thing to make that loop perfectly. I could go to this last frame and just shift this over one. But I'm not going to hold you to that. That's not so important. It's a nice detail. And if I click this now and watch it, watch what happens. It's a perfectly smooth loop. And it's just pulling that same piece of artwork all the way back and sending it through again, but it looks like it's a seamless loop. I'm going to do the same thing with the trees now, but the trees are closer up, so I have to make them faster. I'm going to lock this layer, the city layer, because I don't want to mess with it. And the trees, I'm going to have it start right here. Bless you. And this is a 6-second long project. So I'm going to bring this, I opened this up with P for position, and I clicked on my little stopwatch to turn on the position. I'm going to go to 3 seconds, halfway through, because I'll have my trees go twice as fast. And I want to bring my trees to the end, which were also set up with the artwork. My artwork isn't perfect on this. There's a little bit of a jump in the background of the artwork, but I'll try to get those trees exactly the same. Oops, I went the wrong way. Turn this one off so it's not in the way. So that's to the left, that's to the right. I got to go maybe a couple more. Right, this one is am I going the wrong way? Wait, this one. There. So the background's moving, but the trees are exactly the same. So this, I'll show you, I could set 2 more keyframes here, but since this goes perfectly, I'm going to shorten this layer to here. If I hold shift, it pops to the end there. If I don't hold shift, it doesn't pop. So I'm going to hold shift. And then I'm going to duplicate this layer. And I duplicate it by doing Command D to duplicate. I'm going to bring this up to here so that they're exactly the same. And let's see, I could leave that. They're in the same spot there. So it goes from this one, and then it jumps to the new one. There's actually one frame where they're both there, but it's imperceptible, so I'm not going to change it. I'll turn back on my city and zoom out a little so you can see. It's moving nicely. And then I've got my street layer, and my street for this project is very random. Yeah, you can do other little details like that if you'd like. That's fine. I'm going to lock this tree layer. Oops. I'll lock this tree layer, and I'll put the street down here. And the street, I don't have to match up anything. I'm clicking P, but it's so fast and so random that I'll go this far and move the street to the end. And I could bring this back. And I could duplicate, Command D to duplicate, Command D, Command D. So Command D duplicates, Command D. One more just to get that right there. So since the street is so random, it doesn't matter that I haven't matched anything up.
Street.
And maybe I want to do one little detail. I want to take this city layer, and since it's in the background, I can put a little blur on it. So I could go Effect, Blur. I could choose like a Gaussian blur. Send that to the back a little bit. Give it a sense of depth. And I could, in my tree layers, also maybe turn on what's called motion blur. So if I click on this little icon right here and then click up here, you got that blur on the trees and speeding through. And then I just have to add my car into it. So I'm going to take my car drive on my car. This is a car with wheels. Put it on the road. So this is a nice project for showing a lot of different things in After Effects, how to import and to put things on different layers and nest compositions together. And if you struggle through it, and I'll help you get through it, but if you struggle through it and can do all these things and are aware of the way that the project is structured, you'll become pretty powerful pretty quickly in After Effects. I'm going to export it by going to Composition, Make Movie, and I'll call it Car Driving, and I'll put it into that desktop folder with the car After Effects. I can make a new folder called Renders. Say Save. And there are 4 different settings here. There's the render settings, so I could keep it on best. If you click this, you could see these different controls. If I wanted to change my frame rate, this is where I would do that. But I'm just going to use my compositions frame rate and just keep everything at best. If I was doing a huge project and it took too long to render it, I might change this to draft. And I might make it smaller and change the resolution by doing that. So I'm just going to keep best. Output module, this is where I'm going to change it to H.264. So I could either choose H.264 right from this, which saves it as a MP4 H.264 file, or I could click Format Options, and this is what you're used to seeing. It's a different color window, but it's the same output window where I change a video codec to H.264. Click OK. If I had audio, I would have to check this box, or the audio would not save with the file right now. So I'm going to click OK. And then this is just what it's called and where it's going. So I'm clicking Output to, and this is I've already set that up, save. And I click over here, Render, and it's just going to save out my whole movie, my 6-second movie. And then I've got that final movie here in Renders. And if I set it to loop, I can watch it in QuickTime as a looping video file. All right. So that is the car looping project, and next class I will help you with the details.